ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निते नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Welcome. Hare Krishna. So today we will learn from verse number 10, chapter 8, Śrimad Bhagavad Gita. So this particular section that we are going to study today, it is 10 to 13, these 4 verses. So this particular section describes about the Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So we will chant the verses first. In this particular verse, that is verse number 10, is very beautiful. Today the network is not okay. The connection is very disturbed. Can you see the screen? Okay. प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम्. So prayana kale, at the time of death, manasa, by the mind, achalena, without its being deviated, bhaktya, in full devotion, yuktaha, engaged, yoga balena, by the power of mystic yoga, cha, also, eva, certainly, bhruvoho, the two eyebrows, madhye, between, pranam, the life air, aveshya, establishing, samyak, completely, saha, he, tam, that, param, transcendental, purusham, personality of Godhead, upaiti, achieves, divyam, in the spiritual kingdom, eyebrows, and by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we see in this verse three important words are there which are very significant. The first is bhaktya. In the second line, bhaktya yukta yoga balena chaiva, in full devotion. So we can understand how this devotion is important. Mystic yoga cannot be perfected without this devotion in heart. And then manasa chalena, manasa achalena, it is a yuktakshara. So manasa chalena means a mind which is not deviating, that is undeviated mind. And the next important word is yoga balena, that is the power of yoga, whether Chakra yoga or Bhakti yoga, or as it is said, that is, it is a Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So here in the purport, Prabhupada mentions the particular use of the word yoga balena is significant in this verse because without practice of yoga, whether Chakra yoga or Bhakti yoga, one cannot come to this transcendental state of being at the time of death. One cannot suddenly remember the Supreme Lord at death. one must have practiced some yoga system, especially the system of Bhakti Yoga, since one's mind at death is very disturbed. One should practice transcendence through yoga during one's life. As we discussed in our previous class also, how we should prepare, if possible, from the beginning of our life. If not, then as early as possible, so that this lifelong practice may become a vritti, that is a habit, so that we can remember the Lord easily at the time of death. So this verse, that is this shloka, that is 10, tells about the asana and pranayama stage of this Shat Chakra Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. We see this asana pranayama stage. Why? Because the first it is said that fixing the mind, fixing the life air between the eyebrows, that is in Agnya Chakra, that is the 6th chakra point. Bhruvor madhye pranam avishya samyak. And remembering the Lord with full devotion, that is bhaktya. And how? By undeviated mind, manasa achalena, and by the power of yoga, yoga balena. And what is the result then? The result is attaining the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here Bhagavan says, what will happen? Upaiti, upaiti means achieves. Upaiti param purusham divyam. So, you will achieve the Supreme Personality of Godhead for sure, certainly. So this is verse number 10. Now we will move on to verse number 11. यदक्षरं वेदविदो वदन्ति विशन्ति यद्यातयो वीतरागः यदिच्छन्तो ब्रह्मचर्यं चरन्ति तत्ते पदं संग्रहेण प्रवक्षे. यद् अक्षरं ब्रह्मचर्यं चरन्ति, यदक्षरं वेदविदो वदन्ति विशन्ति यतयो वीतरागः यदिच्छन्तो ब्रह्मचर्यं चरन्ति तत्ते पदं संग्रहेण प्रवक्षे. So yat, that which, aksharam, syllable om, veda vedaha, persons conversant with the Vedas, vadanti, say, vishanti, enter, yat, in which, yatayaha, great sages, vitaragaha, in the renounced order of life, yat, that which, icchantaha, desiring, brahmacharyam, celibacy, charanti, practice, tat, that, te, unto you, padam, situation, sangrahena, in summary, pravakshe, I shall explain. Translation. Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkara and who are great sages in the renounced order enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. So we see, very beautiful verse this is. And this verse talks about Yama Niyama part of Ashtanga Yoga. Here Bhagavan says, okay, first I will read the purport given by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shri Krishna has recommended to Arjuna the practice of Shat Chakra Yoga, in which one places the air of life between the eyebrows, taking it for granted that Arjuna might not know how to practice Shat Chakra Yoga. The Lord explains the process in the following verses. The Lord says that Brahman, although one without a second, has various manifestations and features. Especially for the impersonalists, the Akshara or Omkara, the syllable Om, is identical with Brahman. Krishna here explains the impersonal Brahman into which the renounced order of sages enter. In the Vedic system of knowledge, students from the very beginning are taught to vibrate Om and learn of the ultimate impersonal Brahman by living with the spiritual master in complete celibacy. In this way, they realize two of Brahman's features. This practice is very essential for the student's advancement in spiritual life. But at the moment, such brahmachari, that is unmarried celibate, life is not at all possible. The social construction of the world has changed so much that there is no possibility of one's practicing celibacy from the beginning of student life. Throughout the world, there are many institutions for different departments of knowledge, but there is no recognized institution where students can be educated in the brahmachari principles. Unless one practices celibacy, advancement in spiritual life is very difficult. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya has announced, according to the scriptural injunctions for this age of Kali, that in this age no process of realizing the Supreme is possible except the chanting of the holy names of Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, we see that here Bhagavan says, Brahman is equal to Akshara, is equal to Omkara. And here we see Krishna explains about the impersonal Brahman into which the sages of renounced order of life enter, that is Sayujya Mukti. Now we see that this is for the sannyasis and brahmacharis. As we know, the sannyasis are materially dead. They are completely renounced from this material world. But as we learn from this verse, that is, it is a very impractical process in this Kali Yuga, and the reason is there is no concept of brahmacharya in its true sense of the term. Now, unless one practices celibacy, spiritual growth is impossible. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, do japa and kirtana, engage the senses in the service of the Lord, so that senses will automatically be restrained and pure. And then the senses will follow the mind, which is constantly remembering Krishna. So this should be the process. Okay, so the next next verse. सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य मनोहृदि निरुध्य च मूर्ध्न्याधायात्मनः प्राणम् आस्थितो योगधारणम्. Sarvadvarani, all the doors of the body. Samyamya, controlling. Manaha, the mind. Hridi, in the heart. Nirudhya, confining. Cha, also. Murdhni, on the head. Adhaya, fixing. Atmanaha, of the soul. Pranam, the life air. Asthitaha, situated in yoga dharana, the yogic situation. Translation. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. So, this is the state of pratyahara and dharana we can see of Ashtanga Yoga. So, these 4 points we get. Detachment from all sensual engagements, closing the doors of the senses, fixing the mind in the heart and fixing the life air at the top of it. So, this we can see it is a very practical process even for the householders who do not practice the formal brahmacharya process. So it is a natural pratyahara we can see. Pratyahara means withdrawal of the senses from the objects of senses. So this is the natural pratyahara by the powerful process of japa and devotional service. Now we see in this connection, if we can remember, there were 2 very beautiful verses in chapter 2, verses 58 and 59. 58 says, Yada samharate chaham kurmunganiva sarvashaha indriyanindriyarthebhyaha tasya prajna pratishtitaha. In the Sthita Prajna Prakarana, there Bhagavan said this. That is, it is expected from a person who is fixed in divine consciousness that he will withdraw his senses within, just like a tortoise winds up its limbs in the hard shell, and they will use all the limbs for a particular purpose. And what is that purpose? That is for the service of the Lord. And the next verse was Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. So, param drishtva nivartate means the higher test. So here it is said that the process of negative restrictions done by force, that is Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina, that is restraining the senses by force. So it is not very practical. Rather, the process of natural dispassion for higher test is a very practical process. That is rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. So we see, for example, a loving and caring mother, we see when the child goes out, she will not just instruct the child that, oh my child, please don't eat anything in the street here and there. Rather, what she will do? She will make healthier and tastier food and pack it for the child. So in this way, the child grows a habit not to eat anything here and there, and to only eat the food in the lunch box, lovingly prepared and packed by the mother. So that is why we see, when we make a habit of serving the Lord by all our senses, especially the most important organ, that is mind. If the mind always fixed in remembering the Lord, then automatically all the senses will follow. That is, if the mind remembers the Lord, the eyes will be anxious to see the beautiful form of the Lord. The ears will hanker to listen to the glories and the names of the Lord. The tongue will also be hankering to utter the holy names of the Lord, or to glorify the Lord in every possible, by every possible words, and to taste the prasadam that is tasted by the Lord. So in this way, all the senses will follow the mind, which is constantly remembering the Lord. So that is why it is a very practical process. Now we see verse number 13. ओमित्येकाक्षरं ब्रह्म व्याहरन् मामनुस्मरन् यः प्रयाति त्यजन् देहं स याति परमां गतिम्. Synonyms. Om, the combination of letters Om, that is Omkara. Iti, thus. Eka aksharam, the one syllable. Brahma, absolute. Vyaharan, vibrating. Mam, me, that is Krishna. Anusmaran, remembering. Yaha, anyone who. Prayati, leaves. Tyajan, quitting. Deham, this body. Saha, he. Yati, achieves. Paramam, the supreme. Gatim, destination. Translation. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. So we see, here comes the stage of dhyana. And this particular word, mam anusmara, is very significant, if we can notice. Om iti eka aksharam brahma vyaharan mam anusmaran. So here we see Bhagavan says mam anusmara, that is utterance of Omkara, and thinking, that is thought of mind, that is thinking about Krishna, should go parallelly, simultaneously, at the same time. What is the reason? Because they are non-different. Omkara and Krishna himself are non-different. So we see that vibrating Omkara leads to Sayujya Mukti, that is situating in Brahma Jyoti, the bodily effulgence of the Lord. Now the Bhakta will utter Hare Krishna Mahamantra and will enter or transferred to Krishna Loka, that is Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavana. So we see that fixing the mind by devotional service in Krishna consciousness, a person can easily reach the dhyana and then the samadhi stage, as we discussed in these 4 verses. So we see in these 4 verses, we can quickly remember again what we learned. That is verse number 10, fixing the life air between the eyebrows, remembering the Lord with full devotion, with undeviated mind by the power of yoga, so that the attainment of Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes possible. And then Bhagavan says about Brahman is Akshara, that is Omkara, and through Brahmacharya, this stage can be achieved. And without the concept of Brahmacharya, spiritual growth is impossible. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching, that is Japa and Kirtana, he prescribed Japa and Kirtana, engaging the senses in the service of the Lord. Senses will automatically be restrained and pure. They will follow the mind, which is constantly remembering Krishna, as we just discussed. So the senses will not be engaged in the material process of enjoying for one's sake, for one's own self, and then detaching from all sensual engagements, closing the doors of the senses, fixing the mind in the heart, fixing life air at the top of the head. So, and then Krishna says, Mam Anusmara, and utter Omkara. So, by vibrating Omkara, one gets Sayujya Mukti, and simultaneously we learned what the bhaktas should do and how spontaneously, without difficulty, without any artificial process, introducing any artificial process or forcefully restraining the senses, how spontaneously a bhakta can achieve this state, that is fixing the mind by devotional service in Krishna consciousness, that is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Padasevanam in between, I missed. So everything, all the 9 processes of bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. So these are the 9 processes, 9 methods of devotional service. So fixing the mind by devotional service in Krishna consciousness, a person can easily reach the dhyana stage and then the samadhi stage. And here also an added advantage is there for the devotees. What is that? That is sadhu kripa. Sadhu kripa or Vaishnava kripa, we can say. In Navadvipa Dhama Mahatmya, there is a beautiful that Mahadeva as we know, the greatest of all Vaishnavas. And when we will discuss about Shiva Tattva, we will come to know in detail. So, Mahadeva utters the name of Krishna in the ears at the time of death if the bhakta is unable to chant at that moment. If prana prayana samaye kaphavata pittehi kantavarodhana vidho smaranam kutaste, this stage comes, then Mahadeva takes the responsibility. It is the krupa of the sadhu or the Vaishnava that they spontaneously come to help another person to get delivered and transferred to the Krishna Loka. So then it becomes his responsibility also. That is why we are always taught that how we should try to please all the senior Vaishnavas by our seva and by our behavior. So with this, we have come to the end of today's session. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you for joining.